Greetings. I am your host for this mental health symposium, Dr. Katrina Watford Gamble, National Chaplain of Lejeune Incorporated and Chaplain of the Tar River Chapter of Lejeune Incorporated. The Chaplains Council is so excited that you decided to join us for this event. We will open with prayer, and after which, the order of our agenda will be as follows. Greetings by our National President, Constance Davis, following which our statement of purpose for this event will be given to you by yours truly, Dr. Katrina Watford Gamble. Next, our chaplains will introduce and present our speakers in the following order. Chaplain Marcel Hall will introduce and present Tierra Snyder Diggs, LCSW. Chaplain Gail Perry will introduce and present Dr. Nick Bennett Jr. Donald Dean will introduce and present Crossroads Reach, represented by counselors Sybil Farr and Mazzie Gibson. And yours truly, National Chaplain Dr. Katrina Watford Gamble will introduce and present Dr. Rhonda M. Wood. Additionally, as stated at the beginning of this symposium, questions can be submitted anonymously or publicly in the Zoom chat, and our technology team will forward to the presenters who will answer your questions either during their presentation or at the end of their presentation. Time permitting, questions will also be answered after all the presenters have presented. After the ending question and answer period, I will return before our ending benediction, which will be given to us by the chaplain of the Atlanta, Georgia chapter of Lejeune Incorporated, Chaplain Ruby Broughton. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for allowing us to come together for this event, God. God, we ask that there will be someone who will receive, God, and who will act upon what will be given here. God, bless us as we do these things, not out of self, but to your glory, God, helping us to eradicate what has become an epidemic in the African-American community. We thank you and we praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Madam
Good
President.
afternoon.
Welcome to the Lejeune Incorporated 2023 Mental Health Symposium. I am Constance Davis, the 18th National President of Lejeune Incorporated. We have with us our empowered members of the Lejeune Executive Board, our notable past national presidents, all of my dynamic gym sisters, distinguished guests, and 6 extraordinary speakers. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Let me share a little information about Lejeune Incorporated. Lejeune, meaning the jewels in French, is an organization founded in September 1955 and incorporated in 1968 in Norfolk, Virginia. We are a 501c3 organized exclusively for charitable, educational, civic, and cultural purposes. We are committed to promoting positive influences within local communities, and we are a major affiliate organization of the National Council of Negro Women. Lejeune Incorporated has over 300 members and 18 chapters located across the United States. We are always recruiting for new members and invite you to consider joining us. More information can be obtained about Lejeune and our programs at lejeune1955.org, and we will provide that in our chat later on in the program. So Healthy Lifestyles is one of the 6 initiatives of our Dream Initiative National Program. Our goal is to provide awareness to individuals and families on the activities and habits needed to live a healthy lifestyle. This event is being sponsored by our National Chaplains Council, which is chaired by our National Chaplain, Reverend Dr. Katrina Gamble. Every chapter has an individual chaplain who is a member of the council. I am so excited that they have chosen to make mental health a top priority and to educate us with this dynamic group of doctors and professionals. We all deserve a sound mind. So without further delay, I would like to present to you our chair and host once again, Reverend Dr. Katrina Gamble.
Statement of purpose. A disclaimer. This symposium is not meant to diagnose nor treat individuals, but to assist those needing mental health help move in the direction to obtain help. I began to recognize early, even before my career as a mental health professional, that I had issues relating to my own mental health. I later recognized that as a licensed ordained minister, there were areas that I needed mental help in. I saw my fellow ministers in the gospel being pulled to help their congregants and friends while they struggled with some of those same issues that people were asking them for counseling. Within the African American community, we view mental health as weakness instead of viewing self-help as the road to true enhanced mental health. We will take a pill or injection for a physical body ailment, go to church or a synagogue, hall, or convention for spiritual help, but never seek mental health help for our
Good afternoon.
notable, favorable, educated, compassionate, and spirit-filled psychologists, social worker, and counselors to help this, our audience, travel through the muck and miry clay called mental health. Please feel free to submit questions and concerns via Zoom chat, either anonymously or publicly, and the technology team will assist in getting those concerns or questions to the appropriate presenter. Know that there are no stupid questions nor trivial questions. Please help us to make this symposium a symposium of what we prayed and asked God to make this. And as our motto states, let's make mental health a priority in 2023. Everyone deserves a sound mind.
Good afternoon. My name is Marcel Hall, and I am a member of the Baltimore County chapter of Les Gems. I am honored to introduce our first presenter, Mrs. Tiara Sidnor Diggs. Ms. Tiara Sidnor Diggs, also known as the Savvy Soul social worker, is a licensed clinical social worker and mental health subject matter expert. She is a native of Baltimore, a graduate of Coppin State University and the University of Maryland, School of Social Work, with concentration in clinical practices with children and families. Tiara is a sought after speaker, trainer, cultural and climate consultant, providing training and professional development locally and internationally. Most recently, Tiara has worked with the NFL Player Association, the National Association of Social Workers, the Jamaican Dysphoria Behavioral and Mental Health Task Force, and the Jamaican Dysphoria Worldwide Educational Task Force. She is the co-director of Keys of Hope Consultants, LLC, and co-creator of Sanity in the Sanctuary, faith-based mental health initiative. Tiara serves as an adjunct professor for the University of Maryland School of Social Work, teaching advanced clinical practices. Tiara is a trauma-informed care trainer and restorative practices practitioner, certified trainer for the International Institute for the Restorative Practices. With over 21 years of experience, Tiara Sidnor Diggs has dedicated much of her professional career to providing comprehensive clinical and macro level services to children, adults, families, communities, schools, and practices, restorative practices, youth clinical disorders and interventions, positive school climate strategies, self-care, strength-based community engagement, and transformational leadership. She has co-authored Supporting the Transition from Inpatient Hospitalization to School, published in the Child Adolescent Psychiatric Clinics Journal, Volume 24, Issue 2. Tiara is currently pursuing her Doctor of Social Work with a focus on impact leadership in social work administration at Walden University. She is an active in her community, volunteering her time to support children and families. Prayer and self-care are her superpowers. I'm going to repeat that. Prayer and self-care are her superpowers. One of her favorite roles in life is being the mom to two awesome boys, a sixth grader and a senior in college, pursuing a degree in engineering and being a wife. It is my great pleasure to present to you Mrs. Tiara Sidnor Diggs.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Marcel Hall, for that introduction. Thank you to Dr. Gamble and the LeGEM Incorporated Chaplains Council for inviting me to be a part of this important and necessary conversation today about mental health and wellness. I am both honored and humbled to join a cast of other amazing speakers today. Today, I will be presenting on In Plain Sight, Our Youth Are Not a Right. And this is a call to action to be a champion for our youth as it relates to mental health and wellness. And so I wouldn't be a true clinical social worker without asking everyone how you're doing. And so I want to ask you in the way of some of the Oprah feelings and emotions, though. In the chat box, I would invite you to just put the number that resonates with you as it relates to how you're feeling. And if you're familiar with Oprah Winfrey, she has graced us with many different feelings and emotions. So if one of the feelings and emotions resonate with you in this moment, please feel free to put it in the chat box. I'm feeling like number one because I'm super excited about this day. I love talking about mental health and wellness. I love talking about our youth and our families. And so for me, it would be a number one. I also want to share with you that although talking about mental health and wellness is very informative, it can also trigger some feelings and emotions. And so again, with integrity and ethical standards, as for me as a social worker, I just want to remind everyone to be sure to take care of yourself. If you need to take space, if you need to walk away, if you need to recharge at some point during this symposium, make sure you take care of yourself, because again, these are necessary and courageous conversations, but they can also impact how we feel. And we want to make sure that we're constantly taking care of each other and ourselves, even in these moments. And so again, Marcel Hall did a wonderful job about sharing some tidbits about myself, but I just wanted to just share that I do have a QR code. I know that sometime when we do talk about this subject matter, you may have some questions that you may feel more comfortable asking offline. So if you scan that QR code there, and I'll have something towards the end of my presentation as well with my contact info, you can feel free to email me if you have other questions that you feel more comfortable asking offline. And so my why, I love music. Another part of my self-care is just music. And one line from Whitney Houston's song has always resonated with me. I've never truly understood it until now as an older person. We used to sing this song sometime for graduations or as young children in elementary school. But as an adult and working with young people, this particular line has always resonated with me. And it's, I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. And oftentimes, sometimes as adults, and when we're working with children, whether they're our own children or children we may service in the community or in some of our professional spaces, sometimes it's hard to remember those things that sometimes children need to be healthy and whole. And so for me, this song or this lyric sometimes bring me back to that, because I'm reminded of all the joy that I had as a child, but also some of the things that I wish I may have had. And so when we work with youth, we want to kind of make sure that we uplift this, that we kind of reflect on what are those things that brought us joy and made us healthy and whole, but also what are those things that maybe we needed that maybe we can provide for the youth in our lives today. And so I encourage you, I love interaction, even in a virtual space. And so if you feel comfortable, I want you to think back to a time, a little bit down memory lane, when you were between the ages of 5 and 20 years old. And in the chat box, again, if you feel comfortable, type in an action or word that you received as a youth from a caring adult in your life that helped you to navigate or cope with your mental well-being during that time in your life. But additionally, I also want you to kind of think about what is something that you wish maybe something someone would have did or maybe have expressed to you during a difficult time in your life. And then after that, I want you to put a child that you love in your heart and in your brain as we talk about mental health and wellness of children. I want you to think about how you can continue to be a champion or even strengthen your ability to be a champion for those youth in your life, because it's very important. The youth mental health wellness is an important cause at this point. It is a true state of emergency. And I always like to start off with a definition, because sometimes when we talk about mental health, we immediately think mental illness, but we want to talk about what is mental health. And so according to the CDC, mental health is an important part of children's overall well-being. So overall well-being includes every dimension of wellness. And that includes your emotional health, your environmental health, your financial health, your intellectual health, your occupational health, physical health, your social health, and your spiritual health. All of these things make children and adults whole. And sometimes, again, as adults, we sometimes forget that some experiences impact the youth well-being and mental health and wellness. And so some facts that we are clearly aware of at this point is that the United States Surgeon General has recently identified that the current state of youth mental health and public health and wellness is a true crisis. There has been an increase in youth aged 3 to 17 years old experiencing anxiety, depression, and other mental health and wellness concerns. This also includes our college students as well. And for the first time in the United States, the Preventative Services Task Force is recommending that healthcare professionals, so those are pediatricians or people who service children, screen children and adolescents between the ages of 8 and 18 for anxiety. And they're also recommending that they're screened between the ages of 12 to 18 years old for major depressive disorders. You'll find that 1 in 5 youth in the United States experience a mental health challenge, which can range from many different things, which could be daily stressors, from peer pressure to things that are happening in their life or within their homes or within their communities, events that are happening in the world, such as pandemics. Children are also impacted by mental health disorders, from something such as ADHD, depression, conduct disorder, special education or special disorders that impact their academics, but then also suicide. Suicide is real for many of our youth and young adults. I'm not sure if Marcel Hall shared that I am also a school social worker in Baltimore City Public Schools. And I spend a lot of time, unfortunately, sometimes working with youth who are having thoughts of harming themselves. And sometimes as young, recently, at 7 years old, I had a second grader who came to me because he was experiencing some thoughts of wanting to harm himself and not wanting to be here. And so again, this is a true call to action. This is truly a public health crisis, and it's something that we all are responsible for helping to take care of to support our youth and young adults. The mental health of our youth and young adults has always been a problem. So it's not necessarily that these things are new, but we are getting more information through research and just connecting with our youth and young adults that after the COVID-19 pandemic, these things and these challenges have been exacerbated, signaling that our children really need us. They really need us to show up as champions in their lives. And so sometimes as adults, we think, what do children have to worry about, right? All they have to do is get up, show up to school, be compliant sometimes, but absolutely not. Our youth and young adults have so many things that impact how they feel, how they show up in the world. It can be connected to things that are happening in the society around them, such as government issues or racism, discrimination, environmental issues in their community or in their schools or in their churches. Also, things such as family issues or mental health concerns, financial stability, as well as things that just impact them in general. Children are constantly growing, so developmentally they're going through things. Genetically, there may be some things happening when it comes to who they are, why they are. Understanding all of those things have a true impact on their mental health and wellness. And then we also have the ACEs, which are also called adverse childhood experiences. And adverse childhood experiences are things typically that are out of children's control. And even some of us, if we were honest and we think back to some things that may have happened during our youth, these are things that had a true impact on us. And it can be anywhere from physical and emotional neglect, dealing with divorce, mental illness, incarceration, homelessness, substance abuse. All of these things can impact them on the surface, but then also there's some underlying systemic things as well, such as poverty, discrimination, violence, poor housing quality. And so all of these things can be harmful for some of our youth, just because a lot of times it's things that truly is out of their control, but still they have to deal with them. And we see these challenges in all social and economic levels. And so again, these are things that we just have to be cognizant of as it relates to the youth and young adults that we work with. And I often say, again, that many of our youth, like many of us, carry invisible baggage. Many of our youth carry the invisible backpack. And sometimes in those invisible backpacks are wounds that we don't even get to see. We're not even aware of. And I always like to point out that not all wounds are visible. Often it's the deepest wounds of our youth that are the ones that we just don't see. And so again, those are those things that they are feeling about themselves, that they're feeling about the world. And sometimes they're doing it with a smile. They're carrying this background with a smile, but at the same time, experiencing all these deep emotions. And so again, what is in this backpack? It can be beliefs about themselves, about their future, about the adults who care for them, about what's happening in the world, and then coupled with daily stressors, again, peer pressure, achieving, keeping up with their school grades, keeping up with their friends, keeping up with even expectations that sometimes as adults we unintentionally put on them, trauma, adverse childhood experiences. All of these things are things that many of our youth and young adults are dealing with this day. And sometimes, unfortunately, like some adults, youth don't always have the language to express it. And so what is the best way that they communicate these things? Through their behavior. And so we have to always remember that there is a message behind behavior. Behavior is language. And children will typically communicate through their behavior when they don't have the tools or the skills or the words to use. And the way in which we as adults respond versus react to behavior makes a big difference. And put in the chat if you know that there's a true difference between responding versus reacting to behaviors. Because when we respond to behaviors, we're responding from a space of empathy, we're responding from a space of understanding, we're responding from not I'll say my age, my 40-year-old brain, but I have to think back to when I was 12 and when I was 16 or when I was 5 and when I made certain choices or I exhibited certain behaviors. I have to think back to that brain to make it make sense. But if we are in a space that we're reacting, sometimes we can react out of emotions that can be more harmful to our youth than we intended. And so we want to make sure that, again, even as adults in the space of working with young people, that we are making a conscious decision to respond to this behavior to get more information opposed to reacting. And so some things that we want to think about or lean in on, I always like to say lean in towards our youth. We want to lean into behaviors that may signal something. And again, sometimes these things are just normal, developmental, appropriate things that are just happening in their lives. But you also just want to be making sure that you're aware of, are these things impacting their daily life, their daily interactions, their daily activities, and then also the time frame. If it's just maybe 1 or 2 days that your youth is maybe acting, a little like adolescents sometimes typically do, then that's okay. But if you find after 4 weeks, 6 months, they're sad, they're depressed, they don't want to do certain activities, or their behavior just is a little bit different than usual, then that should be a cause for you to kind of check in a little bit more, lean in a little closer to see what they're saying to you, even if they don't have the words to do so. And so again, these are pretty self-explanatory, but changes in sleep, if they seem a little more depressed or sad, their social connections are impacted, if there's some type of trauma happening in the background, stressors, school or academic concerns, all of these things will cause us as adults to want to lean in just a little bit more. And again, just try to figure out what they're trying to say. Give them the tools to help them to express what it is that they need from us. But then I also like to bring attention to that every child doesn't show up in that way. Some children, like some of us adults, who may say that we're okay when we're truly not, will also present looking happy, they will socialize, they will do their TikToks, they will smile and laugh, they will participate in all the extracurricular activities, they're making their good grades, they're engaging in family activities, they will do all of these things when at the core, they may also be feeling stressed, they may be feeling hurt, they may be feeling or experiencing some type of pain. And so we want to make sure that we are aware of every youth, whether they present in one way that presents red flags, or if they are our youth who also may present as they are doing okay, and maybe at the core they may not be. And so again, this brings back to that youth can very easily hide in plain sight, right under our nose, sometimes even right under our households, right in our mentor groups, right in our church groups, all of these different things. Sometimes our children are truly hiding in plain sight, but it doesn't have to be that way. Oops, I'm sorry. One of my favorite people that I like to listen to, TED Talk, was a lady named Rita Pearson. She was a former educator, and something that she talked about in her TED Talk is being a champion. And one of my favorite quotes is, every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. And my question to everyone listening is that, will you answer the call? Will you answer the call today to be that champion? And part of being a champion is being a protective factor. And protective factors are simply things that are in children's lives that help them to navigate those tough times, those hard times, those stressful times. And typically, many of us may fall in the areas of being a parent, as a protective factor, or even being a non-parental adult, someone that this child trusts in their lives to be able to help them through these hard times. And so we do this through connection, protection, respect, and just having teachable moments, teaching them language to be able to express themselves, teaching them ways to implement self-care into their own lives. Yes, children can also do self-care as well. As young as 3 and 4, I have pre-K students that I work with at the school that I am the social work with. I go into their class every week and we have mental health lessons. They're doing yoga. They're talking about their feelings. And so even as young, the moment that they can talk, we can begin to teach them these things so that they do have the language to be able to navigate. And again, these strategies help to promote relationships. They promote safety, they promote trust, and it also just helps with engaging with them and being able to collaborate with our young people so that they do feel comfortable to talk and share with us, even in their darkest moments. And so some practical tools for you to use to be able to help youth mental health, again, is through modeling. How are you showing up in your life when it comes to your own mental health? What are you teaching? What are they seeing? Most of the time, children do more of what we do than what we say. And so we want to make sure that we are being great examples of taking our mental health very seriously. We want to support them by creating their own coping toolbox. So again, for me, it's prayers, it's spending time with my family, it's doing things that bring joy, helps children figure out what that is for them. Listen more than you speak. Oftentimes as adults, we want to give advice, but sometimes we just want to sit back. They will talk. Sometimes Miss Tiara knows a lot more than Miss Tiara wants to know, but that's because I do a lot more listening than talking, just so I can get an idea and give them the space to be able to share those things. And again, these are a list of things. I believe you'll be able to have access to these slides, so I'm not going to read through them all. But again, we most importantly just want to be able to show up and create safe and brave spaces for our youth to be able to support them, again, at all points of their life, whether they're experiencing joy or whether they're experiencing sorrow. We want to be able to help support them through all stages. And some things that we want to just kind of try to avoid, which can sometimes happen unintentionally. We want to avoid judging. We want to avoid rejecting them, blaming and criticizing them. Being able to talk about your feelings and emotions can be very hard, even if you think for yourself as an adult. So just imagine how it can be for some of our youth. We want to avoid labeling, transferring our own anxieties or our own stuff to our youth. We want to try not to do that, even if it's unintentional. Ordering them, threatening them, nagging them, even our body language. Again, language is behavior. If you have a child or youth who wants to come to you, and maybe your facial expression says another thing, it will cause them to shut down. So just being mindful of those things. And again, lecturing. Oftentimes, again, our youth just need space to share. They need space to just be open. And we want to be able to do that as the adults and caring adults in their lives. And most importantly, again, sometimes we may need to take those behaviors that we're seeing and go to another level. And so if you feel like you do need to go to another level, you will need to seek professional help from a licensed clinical trained person. And again, you may do this if the youth is consistently having difficulties at home, in school, or in their interpersonal lives. You want to seek help if they're having difficulties that are affecting his or her ability to eat or sleep, or just engage in other things that they typically may do. If they're, of course, having hard times in situations where they used to be able to manage, if they're if they're experiencing problems that are significant enough that are causing, you and the family distress. And then most importantly, if you have a youth who expresses any thought of self-harm or suicide, we want to take it seriously. Even if you think that they may not do it, we always want to take it seriously. And so these are some resources that, again, are helpful in working with youth and young adults. I love the Children's Mental Health Matters.org website. There are a lot of different resources for parents, for communities, for stakeholders, for educators that you can print out for yourself. And then there's also some other little national hotlines. Again, if you need some support in navigating how to find support, or you just need someone to talk to or to tap into. And then last but not least, I always like to end my presentations with an optimistic closure. How are we moving forward with this work? Are we going to take this charge to be championed seriously? And so as you go forth today as a champion for youth, for their mental health, I leave you with this poem, which is an invitation for Brave Space. Together we will create Brave Space because there's no such thing as safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars and we have all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. The space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together. And we will work on it side by side. And we want our youth to know that we are by their side in every step of the way. I thank you for listening. I don't want to take up time because we have some other wonderful presenters who will be speaking after me. But if you want to continue to connect with me, feel free to scan any of the information. If you want more information about Sanity in a Sanctuary, which is a faith-based initiative where we help support the mental health and wellness and wholeness of churches and spiritual communities who want more information and training around mental health. I also provide social work leadership coaching and training development, and I'm also a youth mental health first aid trainer. So if you or your organization would like to become certified as a youth mental health first aid person, please definitely connect with me. I offer virtual trainings as well as in-person trainings. And again, last but not least, if you have any questions that you feel more comfortable asking offline, feel free to email me or contact me through any of these modalities. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that information. Good afternoon and greetings to our president, all of our members, and our valued guests and presenters. I am Gail Perry, chaplain of the Washington, D.C. chapter of LEGIM. Today, I have the distinct honor and pleasure of introducing Dr. M. Nicholson Battle, Jr., who is a colleague and friend of my daughter, Dr. Latia Perry. Dr. M. Nicholson Battle, Jr., better known as Dr. Nick, is the Chief Operating Officer of the Bridges Wellness Group. Dr. Nick is a licensed counselor and clinical supervisor serving in Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. He is certified by the National Board of Certified Counselors as a telehealth professional and holds a doctorate of education in counseling psychology from Argosy University. He also holds a BS degree in psychology and a Master's of Science degree in leadership counseling with a specialization in leadership counseling and development from Capella University. In addition to being a mental health professional, Dr. Nick has over 20 years of experience in human capital management, consulting, and human resources. He serves on several boards and works with various nonprofits in the Washington metropolitan area. His professional affiliations include both the American Counseling and Psychological Associations, the Maryland Counseling and Psychology Associations, and the Black Doctoral Network. But more importantly, he is a proud member of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. So Dr. Nick, if you can share with us some of your words of wisdom about this mental health crisis going on today, we will be forever grateful. So without further ado, I am excited to present to you Dr. Nick.
Thank you, Miss Latia's mom.
My pleasure.
For having me. I apologize for my voice. I am a bit tired. We talked about that before we started. And in preparing for this, I realized that this is a group of women. And I thought perhaps I would share with you tips for the men in your life and helping them deal with mental health issues. How does that sound? And also, I like dialogue, so I don't mind you all talking back to me. It makes it more fun for me. And I think it makes it a bit more enjoyable for you all as well. Is that okay?
Yes.
Because if you don't say anything, then I feel like I don't know if they're connecting with me or not. So I'm not going to keep a lot of your time, but we're going to talk about some of the barriers to men seeking mental health. So men's issues can develop from different causes and triggers that affect from those that affect women, right? So it can be barriers in the family with them being a breadwinner, issues with being able to fall into traditional masculine roles, relying on self and not seeking help from others, not being able to speak openly about their emotions, and holding traditional beliefs that negatively impact men, of like, having emotions is being weak, needing help is being weak, right? Some of the primary issues that men face with mental health are depression, anxiety disorders, schizophrenia, and PTSD. And when we think about trauma, because everybody, whenever you say trauma, they always think about like this huge, major event that happens. And it's not it's not the activating event, but it's the response to the event that is the trauma. So it's a trauma response. And oftentimes, you're experiencing little trauma. So if you think about the men in your life and the things that happen on a daily basis to those men, not getting the promotions at work, but seeing somebody else get a promotion, right? We're often emasculated. I say the biggest enemy to Black men, contrary to the myth that is out there, is not Black women, it's actually white women. And they will take every opportunity to emasculate us. And it happens quite often in the workplace. We saw recently with the altercation between Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she said how the Black man was aggressive. She went on to say that he wasn't unintelligent and things of that nature, right? Those are attacks on not only him as a person, but those are attacks on his masculinity and him as a man, right? So these little traumas can build up, and you have a trauma response to something that you think like is not major, but but because you've had these little traumas, it becomes major. So common symptoms and signs that you can look for are aggressiveness, anger and irritability, changes in mood or energy level, changes in appetite or sleeping habits, difficulty focusing, feeling restless or on edge, high consumption of alcohol, inappropriate use of drugs, participating in risky activities, feeling sad, hopeless, numb, or emotionally flat, having aches, pains, or other physical symptoms without a clear cause, thinking or acting in a way that causes concern to others or has a negative impact on work, social life, or family life, and thinking about or attempting suicide, right? Some risk factors to men's mental health conditions and contributing to suicide with men, especially when it's older men. You think about it, they're transitioning, right? So they've been accustomed to, and my dad is 80 years old, and he's a prime example. He's always been accustomed to being in charge and being in control and being able to make all of the decisions. And he's coming to a place where now we're having to take things from him. He's actually told my mom that we're trying to steal from him, but that's a whole other thing. And it's a transition, right? So losing that control, losing ways of how we define ourselves as men, right? Being under very, very stressful situations, not being able to provide or care for our families, are all contributing factors that would cause men to have mental health issues and think about suicide, right? When you don't feel like you're being a man, especially in the traditional roles, right? You can look at suicide. Also, when you're looking at what it means to be a man, gender psychologists believe that gender is a social construct. It's based on status, power, and patriarchal norms and beliefs about gender, right? So male culture and male masculinity are based on 4 common beliefs, right? Virility, aggression, ability to protect, and the ability to provide, right? And when a man feels like he doesn't have any of these things, and when you think about the men in your life, especially Black men, right? A lot of times we are challenged in those areas because of the societal constructs that are in place that are designed to keep us in a position where we are not powerful or where we feel powerless, right? And so looking at those things and thinking about ways in which you can support the men in your life. So like emphasize the positive things that they do, right? Emphasize their strengths and their virtues. Focus on the capabilities that they do have and the things that they are doing, right? We oftentimes look at masculinity as a negative, and it's because we're always talking about toxic masculinity, and I don't like that term. I prefer to say unhealthy ways of expressing masculinity has a different connotation, and it allows for a conversation, a different type of conversation, right? But building on the strength, letting them know the things that they are doing well, letting them know that it's okay to not be able to do things, right? If the men in your life, if he's lost his job, and he can't provide, right? There are other things that he does. There are other things that he brings, and helping him to recognize that, because oftentimes as men, we don't realize all of the other important roles that we play in the lives of our families and the women around us. We're so focused on the societal norms that say these are the things that we're supposed to do as men, that we don't realize, okay, there's a lot more stuff that we bring to the table than just holding down a job. Especially now that Black women they don't need us. They have to want us. And so we have to up our game and make our women want us. And part of the way that we do that is that we get in touch with our emotions. And when we do that, I think that a lot of times women also have to remember that just like we've been taught negative ways of expressing ourselves and thinking of masculinity, you all have been taught the same, right? I had a client that was talking about her husband, and she said that he broke down crying. And she didn't know what to do. Her initial response was, dude, you better man up and stop crying. But she didn't say that. She just kind of sat there and allowed him to cry. And it changed the dynamic of the relationship. Because what she showed him is, you can be vulnerable with me, and I'm not going to beat you up for doing that. But if you think back to everything that everybody is taught about, especially how Black men are supposed to be, we're not supposed to be vulnerable. We're not supposed to cry. I often say Black men have two emotions, it's anger and anger. We can be happy, angry. We can be sad, angry. We can be angry, angry. We can be excited, angry. But if you see a Black man expressing any type of emotion, and you can't hear what he's saying, I see you all nodding your head. It looks like we're angry, right? But creating that space and being okay with that, because it's outside of your comfort zone as well, right? And that is okay, because that shows him, okay, you are my partner in this, and we're in this together. So I'm not going to belabor the time. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. If you all have questions, comments, concerns, please, that's why I'm here.
That was awesome. Thank you for sharing. I love it.
Thank you.
You can feel free to unmute yourselves and ask a question if you like. Otherwise, we'll go to the next presenter.
Dr. Nick, I think it is so important that we as African-American women recognize that there is, we've been taught to be so strong, to be so hard because of the generational issues. And if you would just touch on the fact that it is okay for us as African-American, I know you're male, but if you would touch on the fact that it is okay for us as African-American women to relieve some of the stress on ourselves by allowing our men, by not demasculating our men, and allowing, it would also equate to a better home focused as far as what our children, especially our daughters, will see. And maybe we can break some of those generational stigmas that have been placed on us as African-American women.
Thank you, Dr. Gamble. Okay, so we had two presentations I looked at before we did this. About 2 months ago for the Q's, I did a presentation looking at relationships between Black men and Black women. And I think the biggest issue is, one, Black women historically they've been our partners. Black women have always been our partners for Black men. When we were in the field picking cotton, who was beside us?
Black mama, Black women.
Okay, and the problem is Black men are not white men and Black women are not white women. But we're trying to live up to these societal norms that are based on them, right? We really are partners in our relationships. right? It is literally a 50-50. Our women do just as much as us. And when we're not there, the reason Black women are so, I'm going to use this term, it is not true. Has been used inappropriately so much in describing Black women, masculine, is because of those societal things that have been put in place to remove us from our communities, remove us from our families, right? When we're not there, you all have to do. The Black community survived because of Black women, right? Because we have been incarcerated, we have been lynched, we have been the last hired, first fired, right? When desegregation happened and there were the opportunities for becoming upwardly mobile, they did not count on Black women because they looked at it through their lens. White women don't matter to Black men, to white men, right? They don't. So they did not expect Black women to then jump in the void that was created because they had a plan in place for us. So when we are there, we are your partner. And you don't have to do all of those things. But what you do have to do is you have to tell us then what we can do to lighten that load. So, because we don't know. We don't know. And you know what we've seen? We've seen our mothers do everything. And because our mothers did everything, our belief, our expectation is that then the woman that we get with, that's what she's going to do. Unless she says, hey, you know what? I know you're not working. And right now we're fortunate that my job can sustain us. But what I need you to do to lighten the load and to be my partner in this are these things. And then it doesn't mean that you're not a man because you're doing it. My mama couldn't cook. My mama still can't cook. My mama's 73, she can't cook. She can't cook. Yo, want that she cooked. My dad cooked.
Okay. Okay. He took up the slack.
Exactly. But he was a partner. You know what? And my dad has his doctoral degree. But honestly, my mom has his doctoral degree because my mom would read his books for him and record it. So he didn't have to do that.
Oh, wow.
But a partnership.
And it works.
Exactly. But they knew, but she said to him, and she says even to this day, when you met me, you came to my house and you saw that all I had was tuna. I did not cook. Right? I can't cook. I know, can we legislate training? So the issues, I don't like training. So we can educate women on how to raise a male child, right? And part of that is a lot of times women, because we're not present, what happens is you start raising your son to be the man that you would have loved for him to be. One of the things that my grandma said and my mama said, and she lived by with us is, I'm not raising you to live with me. I'm raising you for the rest of the world. Because at some point you're going to leave me. But a lot of times you raise your son to be the ideal man for you, and then he's a horrible man for somebody else. Right? And oftentimes, because we always hear Black men talk about how horrible Black women are, but what Black women do we not talk about?
Mama.
And honestly, our issue is not these other Black women out here. Our issue is our mama. Because what happens is we get with other Black women and our mama has acted and treated us in such a way that trauma piece, right? So we're going with the trauma that we have from our mama and we're projecting it then onto the Black women that we get with. Because if you think about it, the Black woman that you get with, she talks to you just the way your mama did. Because if your mama gets mad at you, your mama starts telling you off, telling you what you ain't did, what you can't do, what you ain't gonna be. When you get with the woman in your life and y'all get mad, both of you start telling each other off what you ain't gonna do, what you can't do, right? The only difference is the woman that you're now with, you can leave her.
Mm.
You're not gonna leave your mama. And your mama, my mother, interesting woman, I love her. My mother, when my brother and his first wife got into it, my mother didn't take his side.
Mm.
She said, you married her. You go back over there, you fix whatever's going on over there. And if y'all can't fix it, now she did tell her off, but she didn't tell her off in front of him. And she didn't tell him that she told her off. She told me she told her off. But she didn't tell him that because he had to deal with that woman.
Mhm.
And he needed to respect her as his wife. Right? And you have to understand when you're raising your son, he's not going to live with you for the rest of his life. Hopefully. He's going to eventually move on. So you're not raising him to live with you because you're his mama. And I don't care how horrible a mother is, you can always love your mama.
Mhm.
Right? So preparing your sons to leave you and not making it so easy. Like you can support, you can love, you can nurture, you can be there for them, but not making it so easy for them to run back here when they have a situation out there.
Mhm.
And not jumping on her because she doesn't do what you did. I tell my clients in therapy when it's a husband and wife and he's complaining and he's saying what his mama said, I said, are you sleeping with your mama? Because there's something you're getting from her that you're not getting from your mama. And if you're getting all the same stuff from her that you're getting from your mama, there's a problem. Like you need a different type of therapy session. Right? And understanding too that he is not your man. He is not a replacement for you having a life. Like you need to have a life outside of your son.
Wow. Wow.
Any more questions? I'm sorry, because I feel like I was beating y'all up and I didn't mean to do that.
No, thank you, Dr. Nick. That I think we all needed that.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I'm sure they'll have some more questions for you at the end of the in the general Q&A. So ladies, seems like Dr. Nick can take any question we give him, although he's outnumbered.
Excellent.
Thank you again.
Good afternoon. My name is Donna Dean. I'm the chaplain of the Baltimore chapter of LeGems. I have the pleasure of introducing Miss Maisie Gibson and Miss Sybil Farr. I will start with Maisie Gibson. Maisie Gibson is a retired teacher and counselor from the public schools of Robeson County. She has over 50 years of education. She has taught kindergarten through 9th grade, was a school counselor for the grades K through 12, a lead teacher, a liaison for leading learning acceleration program, and is presently working as a student support specialist with Robeson County Commission in Schools and a part-time counselor at CIS Academy, Pembroke, NC. Ms. Gibson received her bachelor's degree of education and a master's degree in education reading from Fayetteville State University. She continued her education by obtaining a master's in school counseling at North Carolina Central University. Ms. Gibson is a Sandy Grove Baptist Church member working on different youth and church ministry committees. Her favorite verse is Matthew 6:33, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. God wants you to live, fully live, one day at a time. That means today, relying on him to provide all your needs physically and spiritually trust in him. Now for Miss Sybil Farr. Sybil Farr obtained her bachelor's degree of science from the UNC Chapel Hill and began her career as a school social worker. After returning to graduate school at North Carolina Central University, she obtained a master's in mental health counseling and special education. In 1989, Ms. Farr moved to Gary, Indiana with her family and pursued a career as a licensed clinical therapist specializing in children and family therapy. While working in this capacity, she helped develop, then implement the Rose Academy Day Treatment Program for students who were unsuccessful in a regular school setting. In 2003, Mrs. Farr returned to North Carolina and continued working with special needs children until her retirement. Mrs. Farr attends Pleasant Grove MBC, where she works in Christian education and the missionary department. Her life mantra comes from Matthew 5:16, which says, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." Now for what they do collectively. Crossroads Projects Reach-R. Maisie Gibson and Sybil Farr have implemented Crossroads Project Reach-R. That's redirecting emotional attitudes, cultivating healthy relationships. This program is designed to help young people redirect emotional attitudes and cultivate healthy relationships at various crossroads in their life. It consists of 13 sessions that will meet weekly and are in an evidence-based program. It also plans to enhance the experience for participants by offering local trips. The program we use is Love Notes. It aims to help young people make wise relationships and sexual choices that will help them rather than create barriers to achieve their education, employment, connection, and family goals. I present to you the ladies that is Crossroads Project Reach-R.
Well, good afternoon. I'm under the impression that we would be sharing our screen. You're going to share it for us? Are you all sharing our screen or we have to share it? That's what I'm asking before I begin. I'm Maisie Gibson.
We have it ready for you, but if you want to, you can share it yourself.
Okay. We'll begin. Can you see us?
Yes. Yes, we
Good
can.
afternoon. I'm Maisie Gibson. I am the reading specialist, the retired counselor, and I am one of the facilitators for where a new journey begins, what is called Crossroad. We work with a system that's called Community in School of Robeson County. And that is where we surround students with community support, empowering them to stay in school and achieve in their life. And as a student support specialist, we go into the school, and this is an evidence-based model connecting students with caring adults such as us, and community resource such as like UNCP and RCC here in Robeson County, and show them how they can see things differently and experience the world around them. We surround them also with networks of trusted adults that they can turn to no matter where they are in their journey. We empower students to confront and overcome some of their personal challenges, because some of us are a adverse child. We have adverse child experience. So we want them to get away from these experiences so they can take charge of their future and be what they want to be and be an asset to their community. And that is where we're going to go to. What is community in school? As you can see, community school, we surround them with community support. We bring in caring adults into the school to address unmet needs. We also support them in many ways. And that's why we came up with the program, what is called Crossroads. I wonder how I got here. Walking was never easy. Destination, I never cared. And this program is designed to help these young people to redirect their emotion, attitude, and then cultivate in them a healthy relationship at the different various parts and crossroads in their life. We are partnered with the Juvenile Justice Department of North Carolina and with Community in School. And we also have a program called from the Dibble Institute, and it's called Love Notes. Now, I wonder why we call it Love Notes. We call it Love Notes because we are able to work with children on various topics and let them know that we are here for them, and we give them their respected place. We help them with decision making. We help take the load off of all of those baggage that they are carrying from their adverse child experience. We teach them relationship topics. So, hey, tell me what your visions are. How do you know yourself? We give them a personality style test, and they find out what their style is. We let them know, what do you expect out of your relationship now? And what do you expect in the future? Because if you don't know where you're going now, then we need to go this reach R, redirecting them. We also try our utmost to keep them together and focused, trying to maintain and form healthy relationships. Because young people today, they do not have those model healthy relationships from home. We know when we came up, there was different issues going on. So our main focus is to recognize these unhealthy relationships and teach them how to respond to the dangerous one. Our program also set aside time for the kids to negotiate with us to improve their communication. We role models, showing them how to handle a conflict, especially breaks up. Rather than focus on what to avoid in our program, Love Notes builds assets and appeal to their aspiration. What is your aspiration in life? We use a strong base approach. It offers them the time frame to help make informed decision instead of what we call sliding into unplanned choices that can derail their lives. And it's an excellent program because we have had several sessions. And as you can see, our program was implemented using 13 weeks of Love Note curriculum. We use this to guide us and keep us focused so we're not rambling here and there. And it's for young ladies or young people from 14 to 24. We try to enhance experiences they have had. We try to include extra activities, so cultural experience, trips, college visitation. And then we close out letting them know, you are somebody, you are special. No one need to tell you that on the outside, especially in a relationship. You were special the day God presented you to your parents. And whether your parents are your legal parents or guardian, they will make you look special if you only talk to them and focus on healthy relationship. Some of our young ladies made a statement one day, said, I fuss with my mom all the time. I said, well, is that good or is that bad? She said, well, not really good, but at least we talk. So that's her way, but we're trying to turn that around in her mindset and let her know there are other ways to handle that situation. So we have 3 cohorts. We've had one and it took place in St. Paul, North Carolina. It was a total of 11 young ladies, very successful, very successful. We had co-op number 2. We're doing that now in Lumberton, North Carolina. We have a goal set of 15 girls. We are teaching them what it is and what it isn't in healthy relationship. We're showing them dangerous relationship signs, the red flags. We're showing them how to improve their relationships. And these are all young ladies. We're showing them how to communicate and how to communicate effectively so everyone will know what you really want and what you're really saying. We tell it, which also is trying to provide positive and proactive ways to prevent intimate partner violence. Our young people have this mental part in them, a portion in them, that they feel like they have to have someone in their lives. We are trying to be that TA, that trusted adult there. They can come to and say to us, I am confused. I have a partner. This is what's happening. So we're there for them. We're going to close this project out and phase this project out with a co-op 3, which would be all male group in Red Springs, North Carolina. This would cover the topic that we just discussed a few minutes ago. Every man is not a man until they know how to be a man. And since we are doing all of this with the young ladies, we want the young ladies to know that there can be a time in your life when you cross the line, when you need help, when you go through a mental stage that you need help. And sometimes they don't even know that. That's why we use the poem Crossroad. It's when I stand at the crossroad, to all the roads I gaze, every path is endless, every path look torn. That's when we come in and we try to do the mental health part. And this is where our journey begins with Project Reach R. So Ms. Sybil Farr would continue with the rest of the slides.
Good afternoon. I am Sybil Farr, and thank you for inviting us. I appreciate Dr. Gamble and all the presenters so far. Ms. Diggs began by talking about children's mental health, and I want to spend some time on that area too. But I want to talk about mental health from the perspective of an educator. She told us that 1 in 5 children have a diagnosable illness. And I want to emphasize diagnosable because in schools, we are equipped to identify certain illnesses, mostly related to educational deficits, such as learning disabilities, autism, and ADHD. Any illness such as depression or bipolar, schizophrenia, anything requiring medical or psychological attention continues to be outsourced to the parents. And it's the parents' responsibility to make sure that the children get that level of care, even if we identify it in the school system. So for them to get the treatment in place has become a big issue for the children. And of course, the stigmas that we've already talked about are also a problem. This leads to underdiagnosis and identification in those children and less students getting help. Another concern with the students receiving treatment is that to be diagnosed, symptoms should be recurring, as Ms. Diggs also told us. They should they are required to recur over a period of time, and in some instances, that might be years. Young children's issues are often overlooked because we believe they will just grow out of it. How many of you have heard someone say, oh, he's bad, but he'll grow out of it. Don't worry about it. And this is especially true with the conduct disorders, tantrums, irritability, mood, and depression, mood swings and depression. And we say all teens go through that, or all children go through that. So sometimes we miss seeing or diagnosing them early enough that they can get help. So programs like ours are there to hopefully give the parents some more success in handling those problems from the very beginning. One of the difficulties today comes because children are sitting and doing nothing but looking at TV and video games and computers, that has become normal, or that's the norm. They learn how to respond to adversity from shows and games filled with violence, or have an irritable person reacting with an attitude. In fact, it says 1 in 5 adults also have some kind of mental illness. So when the parents are ill, that also will affect the children, and the children have to learn to respond based on what they're going through in that household. So as programs like Crossroads have been adapted through the North Carolina courts, realize that children need someone to help show them what's normal outside of what they're growing up with or what they're living through in their household. So we hope that with programs like ours, we can help them to define what normal looks like, and not just assume that because they live with someone who's an alcoholic, or that someone who's been sexually abusing them or cursing them out all the time and putting them down all the time, that's normal. So hopefully we can help them to build stronger social emotional responses. School teachers and administrators are left to distinguish between learned helplessness and actual mental illness. And what we don't talk about is the fact that teachers are not even, we may have 1 or 2 classes that talk about special ed or special needs children, but we really are not trained to identify mental illnesses. So we even have teachers who are apprehensive when they see a child going through these things to talk about it or to refer them. You know, they don't want to be the one that tells on them, but they will send them to the school social worker, or to the principal, or to the counselors that are there at the school. But even those counselors then can only go so far and then refer it out. At least that's the way it still is here. I think there's a push in the legislature and a push in the mental health community to get more programs like ours in the school. And that's why communities in schools, I think, exist, because we have to bring community people into the children where they can feel safe and feel comfortable seeking help without having the ramifications of their parents finding out at home, or people judging them because they go to a psychologist or to a therapist. So that's one part of the stigma we have to break down. We have created the programs we have to increase social emotional education. They focus on teaching children better ways to cope with adversity, as well as how to identify normal versus abnormal behavior. When we were growing up, we could say something like to a child, like if someone hits you, hit them back. How many of you said that to your children or have taught your children that? Well, the problem today is that if you tell a child that, they would assume that they can hit back first. People don't take the time. We presume that before hitting would start, there was also some adverse event that had occurred, leading to an escalation requiring that person or the child to protect themselves. And that's not true today. Hitting is the first response. We don't take time to negotiate, or we don't take time to concentrate on learning how to get along with each other, and how to read body language, and how to read between the lines using all of our senses. We just want to, I think Ms. Dix called it react instead of responding. So hopefully with programs like ours, we will be able to help the children understand better how to respond, not to react. Unfortunately, today we have a lot of people hitting and shooting and cursing as their first response. But the North Carolina Juvenile Courts did create this task force to look at this issue and have children being exposed to adverse experiences. They see death, drug overdose, domestic, physical, and sexual abuse regularly. Some not only see it, but they live through it. And in this, unfortunately, this trauma is mostly undiagnosed, as she also told us earlier. Through relationship skill building and communication skills, we hope to equip young people with the skills to become more resilient. And we have a definition of resilience on the screen. it is the process of adapting well when faced with adversity. We teach them to identify the sources of stress, whether from families or other social environments. We teach them coping skills and healthy relationships healthy relationships require, the ability to process emotions and physical responses using all of our senses. These responses should include moral and spiritual values that are usually not taught by a computer. I like to tell people children are not robots. Children need more than input in and input out. They have to be able to understand feelings and emotions and spiritual. They have a need of spiritual background. And they need to understand morals and values. And sometimes that it becomes lacking because we've been limited in the school system. Most of the time, the schools are just told to get that reading, writing, math correct and make sure they're passing those tests and moving on to the next area. So good mental health includes a sense of purpose, supportive relationships with adults you can trust, the ability to connect with others and adapt to change. And we hope to lead our students to an enjoyable life by having basic needs met and helping them to reach their full potential. This is a process. And that's the thing, it has to start when they're young, and it'll go all through their 12 years of school. And more schools are putting these kinds of programs in place, and communities and schools is dedicated to helping to make that happen. Excuse me. So where does this journey begin? We teach them to look at their past, look through the baggage that they have, whether good or bad. They need to decide what to keep and what to get rid of, what to change. We want to teach them how to work to create a healthy pattern of living and in life, and decide what they want for their future. Hopefully, with this kind of program in place and communities and schools advocating for this all over the nation, we will be able to help more children become healthy, caring adults and avoid having those adverse childhood experiences that also Ms. Diggs talked about in her presentation. So this is just one way that we are making that happen, and we are excited to come out of retirement just to work with these young people. Thank you.
At this time, do you have any questions? And I'd like to leave with this quote before we have the questions. At Crossroads, where a new journey began, we start the program with, I wonder how I got here. Walking was never easy. Destination, I never cared. As I stand at the crossroad, I don't know where to go. All paths look similar. All paths look old. The crossroad was a milestone. I should have known. I know not what to choose. I know not what to moan. When I stand at the crossroad, to all the roads I gaze, every path is endless. Every path look torn. I am here at the crossroad. Maybe someone knows, but I'm here at the crossroad all alone. I am sitting now at the crossroad, and I don't know if I'm right, but I'm still waiting for someone like you all, who will show me the light. This is why we call it Crossroad, where a new journey began. This is our contact information, and we thank you and appreciate the opportunity and the time that we have had with you all. And I will stop sharing at this time so you can talk to me.
Thank you again.
Yes, my hand is raised. Marcel Hall from Baltimore County. First of all, I want to applaud you for the work that you're doing.
Yes.
It is desperately needed. But my question is this: how are you getting the parents on board? That seems to be, on board and accountable. We can't give parents a pass. There's something that they can do. And I know whatever you're doing, it has to be holistic, but that parent piece always is a struggle Are there certain things that you're doing to pull them in and to kind of make them a little accountable?
We are all,
Go ahead.
as a part of the program, parents are invited to come to the meetings with the girls, even though we separate them out. When we initially started, that was not in the plan. But when parents began to see what we were doing with their children, because the first meetings, we always ask the parents to stay and get to know what we are doing with the children. It has been somewhat of a challenge, but more and more the parents are becoming on board, because we gave them our personality assessment, and we talked about some of the red flags of dangerous relationships. And when they heard that, they said, oh, wow, I need this myself. And we did actually start working with some of the parents in the first group. Right now we have maybe one parent that has come consistently. So we have not done that much in this cohort, but hopefully in the future, as we work with these families, we will be able to pull in and start a parent group as well.
I think that would be great, because then if the parents come in, they may be able to help the other parents come in, parent to parent.
Absolutely. And there's no need to have children go trained and learn how to react and how to respond in a positive way if we're gonna send them back to the same home environment. Their environment also has to change, so that when people hear them talking differently, or when they see them responding differently, they won't think that that's a problem.
Well, like I said, all of the speakers here, I applaud everything that you're doing. I'm a former educator myself. I was a principal. I taught at the university, but when I was a principal, like you said, in the elementary school, you can identify those kids right away that are going to have challenges later. I mean, in the elementary school, you see it. And what was so frustrating to me is I had parents in denial, and I was constantly begging them and sharing with them the resources and things. And I will tell you what I found out, like I just shared with someone recently. I happen to know of some of those same kids who are no longer among the living.
Right.
They were either killed or they committed suicide as teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
As teenagers.
That's true.
So, I applaud you for what you're doing. Keep doing the work. God knows we need you. The children need you, and the parents need you, even though they may not recognize it, but they need you too.
Thank you.
Ms. Gibson and Ms. Farr, we have a question in the chat. The question is, what feedback do you receive from students? And maybe that would be like how you're tracking the results of the project.
We have a pre and post test that we do. We introduce the young ladies, the young people to the program. And then we give them a pre-test just to see where they are at the present time. And it's surprising. They say, well, I don't know anything about this. You're not supposed to know, And we also do it to the parents too. When we talk to the parents, I was in charge of what we call the trusted adult side of the program. And our parents was just delighted to find out that some of the things that we were going over were some of the things they have experienced and didn't have the support that we was given. But we do a pre and post test. We see what they know and how they feel from the beginning. And then at the end of the program, we evaluate them as we go through what we call our participant journal. They have to write in their feelings, and they keep a personal journal.
And one of the things I'd like to add to that is I work at the high school level. So communities in school is not a part of the education system in Robertson County, but we are allowed to come into the schools. So I see those girls every day, or they can stop by my office and say, how they're feeling or what's going on in their life during the day. And a lot of them just tell me, Ms. Farr, what you taught us last night helped me to handle this situation. One of the young ladies lost her grandmother while she was in the group, and another had post-COVID was an honor student, but after COVID had very bad grades. But it was because her brother died of fentanyl during that process. So for her to come in as a senior trying to get herself together, was a challenge. And so by my being there with her every day, we worked with her and encouraged her. She was able to get back on track and has gotten her grades up enough that she is definitely applying to college and hopefully will graduate on time this fall. But before, her attendance was extremely bad. You know, and they were just giving up on themselves. So just having somebody that they see is not as a part of the system to talk to,
Right,
has made a difference.
And to add to that, we have an open line of email and text where if they, for whatever reason, they would text all of us and say, look, I'm having a bad day. Miss Farr, where are you? Miss Gilson, what are you doing? And we'll text back, what's up? And they'll text us and explain to us what's going on. And the parents will call us too. We will not be at the meeting today because, and they go in the conversation with us.
Thank you both. And then there's another question. This may be the last one for both of you, but how long has the project been in effect? And are the students monitored after the 13-week sessions? It sounds like you may have just responded to that, but yes, how long has the project been in effect and the students monitored?
We effectively started the program in January, the first week in January. And we was trained for almost a month.
November. Right.
Almost a month of this through the Dibble Institute Love Note. It's a structured, evidence-based program, and we had to be extensively trained for it. And it lasts 13 weeks each cohort. But we started in January, and we will end in what, September, October next year?
Right. And we've already been funded for another year, actually. So
Right.
We'll probably start and expand and hopefully, like we said, add some parenting issues group cohort to that grant for the next school year. But the North Carolina ACES task force is definitely on board, and they see the need and have been extremely supportive in this process.
And that's because we presented at the ACES program in Winston-Salem. Task force meeting in Winston-Salem. We presented it, our Crossroad program, and they was impressed with it and what we was doing and how we was carrying it out. Especially, we are a very rural area. So we have, and COVID and the tornadoes and all of that play a major challenge in our program success. But we have somewhat worked around all of that and have sort of had the opportunity to feed into other resources that we can help the young ladies with.
Yes, I see a question that says, are we funded? We are funded by the Communities in School and the North Carolina Justice.
Juvenile Justice, yes.
Thank you all so very much. We're going to hold the other questions to time permitting at the end. And of course, they have placed in, given contact information for those who want to correspond with them on a personal level. And I would invite you to do just that. I'm going to introduce our last presenter of this session, Dr. Rhonda M. Wood. With over 30 years of corporate experience, Dr. Wood is an award-winning international keynoter, best-selling author, and a leading advocate on mental health. She has numerous awards and expertise, namely the Women's RISE, R-I-S-E, conference in Paris, France, to name just a few. She founded RMW Enterprises, which is a global movement that focuses on helping women win from within. She specializes in helping women reclaim their inner power, make peace with their past, and prosper in their purpose so that they are empowered to reach their highest potential personally and professionally. She unapologetically shares her mental health journey with a level of transparency that allows her to resonate in the hearts of women around the world who are inspired by her bold approach to life. In a world where women are expected to stay quiet, silent about mental illness issues, Dr. Wood chose to speak up and shine light and awareness on matters that have remained in the shadows. She has developed a deep passion for helping women reset their values, renew their vision, restore their vocation, and rediscover their voice. She is the author of an upcoming, soon-to-be-released book called Truth, Traumas, and Triumphs, which guides the readers from brokenness to breakthrough. Also, she co-authored a book with renowned powerhouse speaker Les Brown. She's recognized as having a passion for mental health advocacy and a mission to eradicate related stigmas and work alongside decision makers on improving the mental health system. She's a leading authority who works tirelessly to raise mental health awareness and is an active member, volunteer, and presenter with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, that's NAMI, y'all, in Prince George's County. She currently serves as a parent advocate for transitional age youth as part of Prince George's County Health Department System of Care. She's a founder of several programs: Laugh, Cry, and Heal, Heal Out Loud, and Win From Within, which is designated to help people heal emotional wounds and traumas to become happy and healthy. She was awarded an honorary doctorate degree in entrepreneurship and business administration. She has so many numerous awards that when we hear her speak, we will know that whatever she was given is well-deserved. And I thank her for giving me the opportunity to not only reach her on a personal level, but it gives me great and immeasurable honor to present Dr. Rhonda M. Wood. Dr. Wood.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Gamble. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of the presentations that have taken place so far. Man, okay, I'm gonna try and bring us home. So I just want to share my story. Like I said in the bio, that I share my story with a level of transparency that I hope will connect with people and help them with their mental health journey, or someone that they're supporting with their mental health journey. So there I was, sitting in a very small, closed-in office, sitting across from the doctor, sitting on a nice brown, soft leather couch. And he leaned in and he said, "Miss Wood, you are this close. This close, this close." Now, he wasn't talking about I'm close to guessing the answer in a trivia game. And he certainly wasn't talking about me being close to guessing the winning lottery numbers, although that would have been nice. What he was referring to is that I was this close to having a nervous breakdown, a mental breakdown. Now, when he said that, I wasn't really sure how to respond. I didn't know whether to lean in and get defensive with my neck rolled and my finger pointing. I didn't know whether to sit back and take it all in. But for a moment, I had to reflect for a minute. I said, wait a minute, me? A mental breakdown? I said, okay, wait a minute, doc. How are you saying this? How is this possible? I am strong. That's just not me. Just to give you a point of reference, I'm sitting in his office. I'm in a suit. I'm in high heels. I have on my pearl necklace, had my hair gelled up in a bun, and I had on my favorite red lipstick, MAC Ruby Woo. It makes me feel good. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, mental breakdown. First of all, it doesn't go with my outfit today. And second, wait, people like me, we don't have those issues, right, Doc? Come on, Doc, you know how we are. We're strong people. I come from strong people, Doc. My mom's deceased, my dad's deceased. I raised 3 siblings and I'm raising a teenage daughter. And I work a full-time job. Doc, I don't know what you're talking about. I got this. And once again, he leaned in. He said, I've been doing this for 25 years. I know what I'm looking at. This is what I do for a living. My thesis was on Black women and their issues. And he repeated himself, Miss Wood, you are this close to having a breakdown if you don't stop, slow down, and change your behaviors. Now, let me back up and tell you the events that got me there in the first place. I'm working a full-time job in Washington, D.C., at probably one of the nicer law firms in the country. I had just started there. I felt like, man, this is awesome. I'm making some pretty decent money. But mostly I was working to climb that corporate ladder because that was what I had been taught to do. Be all you can be. I wanted to be successful, and I also wanted to be a good provider for my family. I had made a promise to my daughter, things are going to be great with this new job. The issue is, even though I was promised this great position, a new title, a nice office, a decent salary, the hours were getting to me. I was going in work early, working through lunch, staying late. I was coming home through traffic, and sometimes I would have to log on in the evenings and continue working as well. And then to add to matters, there were times when I had to be attached to my mobile device on the weekends. I thought, well, this isn't what they mentioned in that job description, right? I had little time for myself, and I certainly was having to have lesser and lesser time with my family. So what I noticed is that although I wanted to be this strong woman, I was starting to feel these symptoms of stress, overwhelm, burnout. It was making me sad. It made me sad because I felt like I'm doing all this work and it still isn't enough. I was getting anxiety because I felt like I wasn't getting the proper rest. I was afraid about making a mistake. But most of all, with everything that was going on with work and with home, I was worried about my image. See, just to give you a glance into my life, this law firm that I worked for were mostly men. The law firm that I worked for, the people were mostly white. In other words, they didn't look like me. So when I walked into meetings or I went to give presentations, a lot of times I was the only female, and I might have even been the only person of color. So I felt like I had something to prove. I had to prove you made the right decision in hiring me. You made the right decision in promoting me. You made the right decision in making sure I'm at this table. I worked so hard to get there. I felt like I had to prove that I belong there. And that meant I had to always look like I'm in control, in charge, and that I can handle it. But according to that doctor that was sitting across from me that said I was this close to having a breakdown, that wasn't the right response. And so I want to share with you really quickly some of the things that I had to relearn. One of the things that I had to relearn is I realized that the way I had been raised, I had also passed down as well. One of my visits to the therapist's office was with my teenage daughter, because guess what? She was starting to experience symptoms of stress from school. She was starting to experience, she was diagnosed with major depression, major anxiety. And I know we've had these presentations talking about our children, but it gets heavy when your daughter tells you that sometimes she doesn't want to be here anymore. I thought, wow, here I am sitting in my doctor's office. He's telling me I'm about to have a breakdown, and I'm thinking that I'm okay. Then my daughter's telling me she don't want to be here anymore. You talk about feeling like you can't balance your life and your personal life and your professional life properly. So here are some things that I had to relearn. First of all, I made sure I prioritized my mental health. I continued to go to the talk therapy, and I sought out education and resources through the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So I went to support groups with other parents and with other people who were experiencing similar situations. My thought was, oh, I'll just sit in the back and be quiet and see what everybody else does. But I realized that I learned so much about my symptoms and also ways to better help her with her symptoms. That led to me getting invited to give a presentation in a town hall. I got a phone call one day and they said, hey, we would love for you to sit on a panel and share your experiences as a career woman with mental health, but also supporting a loved one with mental health. I thought they had the wrong number. I had never shared anything so openly before. I shared things in my doctor's office, behind closed doors, in secret, in silence, because I was feeling so shamed by the stigma of not only me having mental health symptoms, but me having a daughter, then teenager, who was having mental health symptoms as well. So some of the things that I had to work on and begin to relearn was I had to give up and relearn having this obligation to be strong no matter what. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being strong. Actually, that's one of my superpowers, and I love it. I just have to make sure that I use it in the right way. Feeling like I have to be strong no matter what means that there are going to be times when I won't feel strong. There are going to be days where I may not feel strong, or that my daughter may feel that way. And I don't want her to think that that is a negative feeling or emotion. It is okay some days to not be okay. It's okay some days when we have to step back, take care of ourselves, recharge, and all of those things. So I had to relearn having this obligation to be strong, feeling like I have to be strong no matter what. The second thing that I had to relearn, reframe, was feeling like I always had to suppress what I was going through. In other words, as I sat in those offices, there were times when I was stressed. There were times when it was hard, it was challenging, it was overwhelming, and it was too much. But I was afraid to let anybody know. And so I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing to the point, again, where the doctor said, you were this close. I had pushed myself to that point. So I had to relearn suppressing all of my feelings and emotions, being more in touch with how I'm doing and how I'm feeling, being more mindful of what things were triggering or when things are getting to be out of control in terms of my workload. The other thing I had to do is I had to relearn this feeling that I have to always be in control, in charge. I got this, I can do it, I don't need any help. I had to relearn that. There are times when it is appropriate, but in this case, adding to what I already had was too much. And the last thing, because both of my parents were deceased and I was raising my daughter and my siblings, I felt like it was my job, my obligation to always help everybody else, which meant putting me on the back burner, putting me last. Those were my main sources of what led me to almost having a breakdown. It was too much. Now, let me say, it was difficult for me to even embrace the fact and be open to what he was saying. It was difficult for me to lean in and think, well, there may be some truth to this. But I did know that not only what I was going through, what my body was going through, what my daughter was going through, I did know that something needed to change. Something needed to be different. So I prioritized my mental health. I began to speak more openly about it because one of the things that had kept me trapped and kept me pushing forward was being so silent about what was going on. So I began doing what we call, some people call healing out loud. I just began to be very open and vocal. So when I gave that presentation that day on that panel, my knees were shaking, my teeth were shattering. I don't think I ever perspired so much in my life because, again, I had never shared something so personal, so openly before. So my plan was get up there, share your 15 minutes, Rhonda, and then make a beeline for the door. That was my plan. So I got up there and I shared. It was quiet. You could hear a pin drop in the room. I talked about me being a career woman. I talked about pushing and trying to climb that corporate ladder. I talked about what my daughter was going through in her school day. I talked about the rejection and being ostracized by church because a lot of people felt like, oh, you can't have faith and mental health at the same time. I got talked about how I got ostracized by my family who questioned my parenting because, oh, if your child is having symptoms, you must not be parenting right. I talked about all of these things. And at the end of my presentation, they clapped. And I was ready to make that beeline for the door. As I was walking to the door, there was a line forming around me. People wanted to know more because I had been open and transparent about a lot of the things that they could not speak up for. So I became this voice. So the more that I spoke, the more I was invited to speak, the more I got interviewed, the more people invited me to talk about what I was going through and what I did. So a lot of people ask me, how did you make that transition from going from a corporate environment to now being an international mental health speaker? And just so you know, and like most of the speakers on this Zoom today, I don't have any certifications in mental health, no degrees in mental health. My degrees are in something else. I have years of lived experience. My therapy sessions were actually digging back in my life through the things that caused me to be where I was in that moment. Again, having to relearn, to change my narrative, to reframe my thinking out of the things that was passed down through generations, this being strong. I had to learn that, again, there are times when I'm not going to fill up to it, and that's okay. Learning what my triggers are, the things that bother me, the things that cause me to be sad, have stress, be overwhelmed, not feeling like I have to be strong, and prioritizing me with self-care. It was okay to put me first some days, even most days. We give so much honor and glory to women who are doing multiple things at one time. But how often do we give glory to someone and say, oh my goodness, look at her, prioritizing her today? That's also honorable and very noble as well. And so I'd like to I see someone in the chat saying, Black women and their issues, help us, Lord. Yes, that is so true. I know I definitely honored my mother for being a strong Black woman. Her mom, I honored for being a strong Black woman. And you know what? And they were. And so am I. And so is my daughter. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. Doing it in a healthy way is what we want to do. So even though I took a step back from my full-time job, I actually took leave so that I can prioritize myself and also properly take care of my daughter. I had fear about how that would look to my then supervisor, my coworkers, my peers, my family, and my friends. I thought I was going to look weak, but I realized it is one of the strongest decisions I've ever made in my life. I'm so glad I did that, and I would gladly do it again. I learned so much about mental health awareness, about our symptoms, about self-care, about proper coping skills, the proper way to cope, reframing, reshifting things that I had learned in an incorrect way in my past, in my childhood. The other thing that I wanted to say is that I know I talked about this a little bit before. It's just that a lot of people didn't expect someone like me, who looked like me or had the success level that I did, to have mental health symptoms. But I did, and I still do. And I think I want to make sure that we're aware that the face of mental health has many faces. And it can be deceptive because many of us, me included, we learn to wear this rehearsed look of all is well. Many cases, you ask someone how they're doing, they're going to tell you fine. But mental health or mental illness, people with symptoms, these symptoms can look different from person to person. Many people may not look or behave like they're dealing with mental health challenges. They may not look depressed. They may not look anxious. They may not look like they have post-traumatic stress or suicidal thoughts or anything like that, because we expect them to look. We expect the sufferers to show signs externally. We expect them to show or look like they're downhearted. We expect them to look or be isolated. We expect their actions and behavior to show nervousness. But in many cases, there are people like me, the strong friends, the strong family people. Those are the ones that you need to watch out for. and the children that you need to watch out for, because they may very well appear before you with their head held high, with a big smile on their face, not only appear okay, but they'll tell you that they're okay, when in actuality, beneath the surface, they may very well be masking loads of emotional pain, as was the case with not only me, but only my daughter. One of the main reasons I wanted to make sure that I made that change and prioritize my mental health, made it a priority, which is what this symposium is about. A big reason was because of me, but also I needed to model the behavior that I needed my daughter to have. If she ever felt like it was not okay to grieve or be down or be sad or have bad days, then she would also grow up and mask emotional pain, and she would pass that down as well. So I wanted to make sure that I modeled the correct behavior and actions so that she knew how to handle things as well. And I want to make sure that I end by saying that although my daughter and I, we both had mental health symptoms, externally and internally, there wasn't necessarily a point we felt like we were cured. I want to make that clear, that I haven't like arrived to this point and I no longer deal with it and I'm okay now. I am okay now, even with my symptoms, because I prioritize them. I've learned to identify them. I've learned what the triggers are, and I've learned how to manage them so I can live with it and still be able to do great things. And a lot of people ask me, I can never leave my audience hanging, but they say, well, how's your daughter? My daughter is doing well. Does she still have mental health symptoms? Yes. But again, she learned to identify them, what her triggers are, and she learned to better manage them. So a lot of her symptoms started in elementary school and middle school, actually. And we started as a teenager, we started talk therapy. We tried different types of therapy, aromatherapy, move therapy, art therapy, dance. We tried so many different things, natural remedies, and then we eventually had to move to medications, different combinations and things of that nature. The main things that we did were the talk therapy, but I want to report that this was a person who wasn't sure if she could complete life. And I made the decision to homeschool her just to be able to focus on her more. There were times when it was definitely a difficult and crises, but this 1 week ago on Friday of last week, she actually graduated. She graduated from college with a degree in psychology. 2 years ago, she got a degree in an associate's degree in psychology and university, at the community college. And 1 week ago on Friday, she graduated with a degree in psychology. She is doing a lot better. She's appreciating life more. She sees some light at the end of the tunnel on most days. Does she still have bad days? Yes. Does she still struggle with symptoms? Yes. But again, learning to manage them much better. And I want to also say that she's actually followed in my footsteps. She shares her journey with youth, teens, and young adults. She specifically shares with that group. And when she shares with them, again, they lean in because she boldly says what a lot of them are thinking and feeling, but are too, because of stigma, are afraid to be open about it, or may even have difficulty articulating it in the right way. So that's my story. I want to end there in case there are questions. If anyone wants to connect with me, you can reach me on all social media platforms at Dr. Rhonda M. Wood, or my website is drrhondamwood.com. Thank you.
Dr. Wood, I think you leave us in a better place than where we started at the symposium. All of the speakers, may I tell you all that this has been, in my opinion, phenomenal this short period of time. as a pastor, I don't preach behind anybody because that's not what we do. But I will say to you that I began to have an out-of-body experience as you were talking, because most of what you're saying is my story.
Wow.
But someone said in the chat, but we wear the mask.
We do. We do.
So if you all have any questions, you can present it to her. And I know you all probably feeling the same way I am as I'm reading the comments in the chat. I want to say, as you can notice, you all see what our shirt says.
Mhm.
Okay. And that is the reason why my nonprofit, No Gamble Inc., realizing the mental illnesses that were hid, that were masked, and it was all because we weren't looking out for ourselves. So thank you, a million times thank you. I tell you, I could almost mirror what you were saying in regards to a daughter and a granddaughter. I can almost mirror you. The Chaplains Council, we meet every month, but we also meet intermittently when we decide we want to just kind of talk or just go over or do our recordings of meditation. We have been very fortunate in that most of us are very transparent with each other. There's no, as we say, no big I's and no little T's, no little U's. So we wanted to have this symposium as a means of being able to say, especially after coming out of COVID, as a means to say, what is our position in this mental health crisis? And that is why we decided to do something in this administration that we're under now, this 2-year administration that we're under now. Speakers, I cannot say enough about what you have placed out in the atmosphere to us, starting with Tierra, Dr. Nick, Crossroads Reach. I met them at another mental health symposium. And Miss Gibson inspired me by an incident that I won't tell her incident, but what she said in the symposium. And when I left there and I thought about, what she said to me gave me an awakening. It was like a light bulb came on. And Miss Gibson, I will have an opportunity to tell you that one-on-one, but it was like a light bulb came on about some things. So I want to just express to all of you, and I know every one of the chaplains can say the same thing. We are truly, truly blessed to have had you all speak into our hearing today. The audience that are present, my prayer is that you have received something, and not only have you received something, but something to act on. If we can destigmatize mental health in the African American community, I believe, as I said in my public service announcement, we will look at, there will be things that will be changed. It's every day that we reach out and we hear situations and stuff. And when the first thing we say is, that sounds like a mental health crisis. Man goes in school, shoots up the school. Sounds like a mental health crisis. Man goes in the grocery store, shoots up. That's a mental health crisis. We see all types of mental health issues. So that's what the Chaplains Council, we wanted to, as I said, bite the elephant one bite at a time. And thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And as this motto has said, let's make mental health a priority in 2023. Everyone deserves a sound mind. Now, at the end, there will be a survey that we've put together along with the tech team. And please answer the questions, because that will help us know that what we're doing has an impact, not only on you, but an impact that you will take out and to the community to help do your little part. Like someone told me the other day, I'm just a little ant, but a lot of ants can make a big ant hill. Any of you who know how to cut grass and stuff, you know what a little ant can do when he gets together with his other people. So we want to make sure that we do what we need to do within the mental health realm, and especially in LEGIM, to do what we need to do to help from our social piece. So my question is, if there are any questions, we can do a Q&A, or if you would like to reach out to any of the speakers, please know that the tech team will, I believe they will put the information out where you can in the links. And please, please don't suffer in silence. Don't let anybody suffer in silence. Tiara, you gave some awesome experiences, questionable issues that we need to look at, that we sometimes overlook. Dr. Nick, I can't tell you how you spoke to the African-American male experience for us strong Black women, you know, that we will be able to look at our men differently. And of course, Crossroads, just knowing what's going on in school, what you're doing bit by bit, you're tearing down walls. And Dr. Wood, thank you again for being so transparent. Are there any questions that you all want to put out for the speaker before our benediction?
Dr. Gamble, I wanted to say, and I think like Tiara kind of hit it on it in her presentation. A lot of times we think a mental health has to be something huge. And as Dr. Wood pointed out, it's not a huge thing. Every day you're going through things that impact you. And I think that in our community, especially, we believe I have to have something huge, horrible, tragic happen to me. So the events that you pointed out, like someone going into a school and shooting, trying to not get there, right? Like there were things before that happened.
Absolutely.
And I think that the trope of the strong Black woman, like that keeps Black women so bound. And when Dr. Wood said that she would go in the room and felt like she had to prove herself, I think that a lot of Black women feel you. But what I tell all of my clients, if you walk into a room, you belong in that room. Mm-hmm. Space, you belong in that space. You don't have to do anything extra, right? And I think that that's like, we have to get past that, right? We don't have to prove anything to anybody. If I'm not enough for you, then I don't need to be here, right? And it doesn't have to get to a place where I'm so bogged down. I have had people come into therapy and we're literally just talking about something that just happened today to them. And it wasn't a tragic thing. It was just the fact that I needed to process through this thing that happened to me, right? But those little things, like I said, it's not about the event that is the PTSD, that it's a trauma. It's the response to the event. And there are no negative emotions. I tell people there are no negative emotions. It's what you do with the emotion.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so we have to get past this. Can I just be me for a minute?
Please.
We have to get past white people, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
They will tell us that there are negative emotions. That's not true. In therapy, Black people were doing therapy. Historically, they're learning things that we've always been doing, right? When we were out in the field and you would get together after being out in the field and working and talk to somebody, we've always had therapy in our community. When you would go talk to Big Mama, that was therapy. Right? She didn't necessarily have all the degrees and all these letters behind her name, but that was therapy. We've always done this. Now we just have different tools. I hate diagnosis. I hate diagnosis because the worst diagnosis always apply to us.
Yes.
But remember, this modality was not designed for us. It was designed for rich white people, right? So yes, when you go in, you're going to get a diagnosis because that's how we get paid. And I don't know nothing about y'all, but I've tried going to the grocery store and telling them that I do therapy and I help people, they say, that's nice, put that food back. So we have to get paid, right? Yes, we'll have a diagnosis. These things exist, but it doesn't mean that like there's something tragic going on with you. That doesn't mean that you're crazy, right? You just have a situation that your coping mechanisms are not working right now. And we all need therapy.
Right, we all need
it. We all need to talk to somebody. I'm sorry, I just had to like put that out there because I don't want us to walk away feeling like, oh my gosh, this has to be so bad. And I love what y'all are doing with the kids in North Carolina. And you know, because my niece is down in North Carolina and my nephew's in North Carolina. And somebody went to Central. My niece graduated from Central. So I love what y'all are doing, right? Like, and it's needed. It is needed. And it's needed for us. And I cannot emphasize that enough. Well, Latia's mom, Latia probably already told you, I'm Black, we Black. Like, we have to do things for us and take ourselves into consideration and not worry so much about what the other folks are going to do or what the other folks are going to think, because they don't care about our communities.
Right.
The way that we do. And I love the fact that this is a church organization, because a lot of times our faith-based organizations poo-poo on mental health. And sometimes they do more harm than good. You can't pray everything away.
Exactly. That's right. You have to act sometimes.
I catch it all the time. I'm sorry. I don't apologize, no, but I get it all the time. But one of the questions, we live in a unique area of North Carolina, right along the 95 corridor. And someone asked a question to Ms. Gibson and Ms. Farr about sexual trafficking and sex trafficking. Have you dealt with, been exposed? Have any of your girls been exposed to trafficking activities? We have a problem here really, really bad in Fayetteville because we have all of these hotels and stuff that they can hide or whatever in. But can you all answer that question for the person who's put it out there?
Sure, I can talk to that a little bit. I worked at a high school, St. Paul's High School, for 16 years, and it is also right there on the 301 corridor. I mean, the 95 corridor. And yes, we would have young ladies come up missing. And we're also about 42% Hispanic. So our whole county is very unique in that we have Lumbee Indian, African-American, Hispanic, and white. And honestly, the white population is probably one of our smallest right now. Exactly. So we do have a whole lot of Hispanic children who come up missing, we call it.
Yes.
And we find out maybe a year later that either they went off and were married to some older man or were trafficked and have to come back. So yes, it is definitely a problem in this area.
It is. We've had some young ladies to disappear. I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, a young lady disappeared, a Mexican young lady, and she was found later with an uncle. So he called himself an uncle, and she was returned safely to the family. But that was just one incident, because where I'm living, my location now, there was 3 ladies that was caught up in a situation, and to this day, no one know exactly what happened to these 3 ladies that was brutally killed. And it was all connected with sex, drugs, and all of that. So we are trying to just address those issues with our young ladies and let them know there is danger sign. There are red flags. If he grab you and tell you, come on, that is a flag, ladies. He's not grabbing onto you just to say hello.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? This is so good. I hate to let it go. I hate to let it go because it shows us that when we come together, we can definitely help to eradicate some of the misconceptions about mental health. And like Dr. Wood and Dr. Nick and Tierra and all of us said, we don't look like what we've been through.
Amen.
But the ironic part about it is that it is forums like this that gives us power to run just a little bit further in this thing called the race of life, mental health, the mental health race. And with mental health awareness being this month. I know you all are constantly seeing all the talk shows or whatever that's talking about mental health, but I must be honest. I believe our APA president, Dr. Bryant, was the only Black one that I saw on the on the show talking about mental health. I mean, I may stand corrected, but I think that was the only one that I saw. But if anyone has any more questions, please feel free.
I do have another question for Dr. Nick. As far as the males or the men in my family, how can we embrace them and help them if they're going through something, if they're suffering in silence and they don't want to, let anyone know that they need to go and talk to somebody? Is there a way that we can, encourage them without making them feel, guilty or something, or,
Okay, so I feel two ways about that. One, if I'm trying to help you, I don't care if you hate me later. Right? If you can hate me, that means you're still here. So I'm good. Two, you all know how to approach them when you want other things. It's the same thing, right? My mother, and I'm always talking about my parents, but my mother used to have us go to the mailbox, and we would bring the mail, and she would go through all the mail, and she would say, "Put this on your daddy's pillow." And I finally said, "What are we putting on his pillow?" She said, "Those are the bills." Right? You have to get him. And even now, he didn't want to sign up for the mental health services and stuff like that. And she gave him her ultimatum. Right? Because she knows how to get him. You all know how to get us to do whatever you want us to do. I always say, women have the power. Women motivate us to do whatever they want, because it's either the woman we came through, who is our mother, or a woman we're trying to get into. And they control us, right? That is our motivation, right? That doesn't matter a man's sexuality or whatever. One of those two is going to get him, right? So you all know how to get us to do what it is. What happens to you all is, I think that you all kind of feel embarrassed. Like I said, you have negative things that you have been taught too, as far as masculinity. Right? And so when you look at a man that has certain needs, part of it is you're starting to then question him as a man. Right? And should I say anything? Because as a man and as a provider and as all these things, he knows. And if he needs me, he'll say something. But we haven't been taught that it's okay to ask for help. And so what my mama did when she was giving the bills, is she's telling him that needs to be paid. Right? Because if she didn't do it, you know what he was going to do? Go through that mail and put it wherever and go about his business. But she knew how to get him. She knew how, when I told her that, he's a veteran and has all of these things, you are going to be getting extra money for him. And he said, I don't need it. I don't need it. She went and she set up the appointment and had him on the thing. And he sure was saying what he needed to say. But she sat him down and she had the conversation with him. I don't care what you say you need. You need this. You can be mad, because you know what? We're not going to be mad with you for so long.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
I have a comment and then just a brief testimonies. Dr. Woods, you inspired me. The comment is that every presentation was excellent and I was glued to my seat. And about Black people or our community accepting counseling. My time when I knew I needed counseling is when I lost my husband to cancer and my son within a 2-year period in a car accident. And as I looked out, our churches will say, let's pray. And so when I reached out for grief counseling, my individual counselor happened to be Caucasian. That's who they referred me to. And then when I went to the widows group, I was the only Black person, and I was young. I was 48 when my husband passed. So the other people were white and they were older, but they embraced me. I'm not gonna say I didn't learn things from that group. In fact, they were so happy to see me. They act like I was speaking for all Black people. It's like, but so that's when I knew, and nobody told me except maybe the Holy Spirit. I knew that I needed more. I knew that I needed more. And that's the first time I actually did counseling. And I really embraced this mental health thing because I almost felt like I was going to go crazy. But as you said, Dr. Woods, I was dressed to the T. I went to work and I had a smile on my face. But I'm just going to share with you, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, when I was by myself, I was crying. But people, I kept that from people because I didn't know any better. I thought, like you said, it makes you look weak. And they say, don't you go to church? Don't you believe in God? Why are you doing all that crying? You know what I mean? But the counseling was the best thing I've ever done. And so now I can encourage others. I recognize the signs in other people who are grieving, where other people might look at them and say, oh, they look fine. Because we'll say, when people ask you how you feel, you're going to say, oh, I'm okay. But you really may not be okay. So I understand. So thank you so much. Every one of you were wonderful. And I'm so happy that I was glued to my seat.
I'm going to ask that the tech team, if you would please display any information that can be used to contact our presenters. And because that is the survey. So if you would please do the survey based on I think 1 through 3, 1 being the lowest and 3 being the highest as to when you answer the questions. And I'm going to ask our chaplain from the Atlanta, Georgia chapter, if she would, Ruby Broughton, if she would close out the session for us as you all do the survey, and in addition, any contact information for the presenters. Ruby.
Okay. Good afternoon. It is an honor for me to have this opportunity to give the benediction for our symposium on mental health awareness. Let us make mental health a priority in 2023 because everyone deserves a sound mind. 1 Timothy 1:7 said, "For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you and bless everyone that had a part in this mental health symposium today. Dear God, in the name of Jesus, bring comfort and have mercy to all people that suffer from some form of mental illness, whatever disorder it might be. Anxiety, mood, psychotic, eating disorder, personality disorder, bipolar, whether it be autism, depression, or schizophrenia. We ask for your special touch on all people everywhere who are suffering. Help them not to despair, but to trust in your mighty healing hand. Yes. Help them to find good doctors and therapists who will give them the proper treatment. Help them find medication that relieves their symptoms without those awful side effects. Help them, Lord, to take advice from their healthcare providers when it's given to them. We seek restoration and relief to renew everyone passing through the trials of mental illness. We thank you, Lord, for the power of deliverance and dominion. Yes. We bless your holy name and we declare and decree all we have said and done here will be blessed by someone today. And it's in Jesus' mighty name we pray, and we all say amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Amen.
Presenters. Thank you.
Thank you all so much again.
Amen. Thank you so much.
The presenters, I think I have you all's mailing address, and please